the college football halftime show presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live Muss. I'm Erin Chevroni here with Leroy Horton. We've got plenty of action on tap today. Lots of good games going on, so we're gonna take a look at them. But first, Auburn and Mississippi State score right now is 28-13. Mississippi State just back from the half, and it was quite a first half full of highlights, to put it that way.
It was sloppy at times. Dak Prescott, for as great as he was for a portion of it, turned the ball over a couple of times, turned it one time over in the end zone. Dan Mullen decided to, I don't know whether it was him or the punter, decided to go for it, fourth down in your own territory. So it's a lot of mistakes. It's about time for everybody to calm down, play some football, and I think it's going to be a good second half.
Well, we're going to take a look at some of those mistakes, or all of those mistakes, really, with our highlights here. Starting off with Mississippi State striking first. Jay Hughes intercepts Nick Marshall. A freebie given away by Auburn early sets the tone to come. That was a Dak Prescott pass to De'Runnya Wilson for 34 yards. First touchdown of the game, making it 7-0 Mississippi State. Here's Auburn's Duke Williams fumbling. Mississippi State, McKinney recovers. Josh Robinson with a 1-yard rush, and it is in. Dangerous play on first down to stick that ball out. Very risky. Here's Dak Prescott. It's Prescott 2-yard touchdown run.
At this point,
21-0 Bulldogs.
It's going to be a blowout.
Auburn's Daniel Carlson misses a 28-yard field goal. Mistakes piling up here. Mississippi State punter Logan Cook tries a fake punt, but throws an interception to Jonathan Ford. Auburn finally getting on the board here with a field goal, 21 yards made by Daniel Carlson, 21-3 Mississippi State. And here's a second 22-yard field goal by Daniel Carlson, 21-6 Mississippi State. Here's Dak Prescott with his second pick. Jonathan Jones with the pick for Auburn.
Nah, you can't do it.
Nope. And here we go with another turnover. These things are growing on trees today. Auburn's Nick Williams throws it 9 yards to Duke Williams for a touchdown, bringing it to 21-13 Mississippi State. And finally, here we go, Dak Prescott with a 15-yard touchdown run. That's his 8th rushing touchdown of the season, 28-13 Mississippi State, which is where we are now. That was a lot of highlights.
A lot of highlights. I mean, the good news is if you're Mississippi State, is this. You've stopped them offensively, and that's their strength. They haven't stopped you. If you're Auburn, you got to find out a way or figure out a way to stop, Dak Prescott.
Yep.
I mean, he's running the ball, throwing the ball. He's making mistakes, but pick one. Either make him run the ball or make him throw it, but you got to pick one. They're doing whatever they want to do.
Speaking of doing whatever they want to do, earlier on CBS, Georgia routed Missouri 34-0. Let's check in with Carter Blackburn and Aaron Taylor for the recap now.
Twice the Georgia Bulldogs have come to Columbia, Missouri as members of the SEC, and twice they have celebrated. Today, 34-0. Carter Blackburn, Aaron Taylor with this game recap for CBSSports.com. The big question was about Georgia's offense. The question should have been about Missouri's offense because it was ineffective from the get-go today.
147 yards coming off of a bye week. It was ugly early and often for Missouri. Maddie Mock throwing a couple interceptions on his first couple of possessions. He certainly didn't get helped out by Marcus Murphy dropping that football on the last one, but breakdowns up front on the offensive line, both in the pass game and the rush game, really limited the Tiger. This was not all on Maddie Mock, the quarterback. This was a total team meltdown on the offensive side of the ball for Missouri.
None of the numbers good for the Missouri Tigers, but 5 turnovers, 0 for the Georgia Bulldogs. The time of possession for Georgia really showed up in Missouri's defense being tired. That helped out the Georgia run game led by Nick Chubb.
Now third game in a row that Missouri has not forced a turnover after 47 straight games, but the story of the game to me was the job by Nick Chubb and him running the football. What big shoes to fill for Todd Gurley, yet he did it. Under 4 yards per carry, but he showed some explosiveness, and he was patient as a runner. As he gets more reps and more touches, and he had 38 today, 10 more than Todd Gurley's ever had. 27 is going to be pretty good.
143 rush yards for Chubb. That's all for now. For continuing coverage, go to CBSSports.com.
Well, you saw it right there, folks. Our Taco Bell MVP is from that game, and it's Nick Chubb filling in for Todd Gurley. Ran the ball 38 times for 143 yards and a score. What are your thoughts, Leroy?
Well, I think Georgia's going to have to do it a little bit differently. Todd Gurley definitely gives them the big play threat, and Chubb doesn't necessarily do that. So, you know, they're going to have to be a little more methodical. They're going to maybe have to sustain drives a little bit longer. But what happens there is, I mean, I've never seen a game where a team has had the ball for over 42 minutes. And that's what having that style of running game does to you. So, you know, they're going to have to do it a little differently. But I still think Georgia will come out of the East.
Big shoes to fill, though, and Chubb did a good job. Now, Leroy, we always talk about the SEC West, and obviously, rightfully so, but who's going to represent in the East in the SEC championship game in December?
Georgia. I mean, I still think from top to bottom, they're better than any other team in the East. I mean, you look at Kentucky. I mean, Kentucky's been playing decent, but, you know, Georgia is the class of that group.
All right, remember, everybody, download the CBS Sports app for instant scores, stats, and late-breaking news from all of today's games. Get it now at cbssportsapp.com, and stick around because Leroy and I will be right back after this commercial break with more. Welcome back to the College Football Halftime Show presented by Taco Bell. Sometimes you gotta live must. I'm Erin Sharoney here with Leroy Horde. Score update for you. Auburn, Mississippi State. That score is 28-13. Mississippi State leading the way. Big game tonight in College Station with Ole Miss taking on Texas A&M. Let's kick it up to New York for a preview of the game from our College Football Today crew.
Hey, Adam Zucker with Spencer Tillman and Brian Jones from our College Football Today studios in New York. Our CBSSports.com spotlight tonight shines on number 3 Ole Miss at number 14 Texas A&M. The Rebels are coming off their monumental win over Alabama last week. Texas A&M is trying to regroup after suffering its first loss of the year against Mississippi State. Ole Miss 0-6 all-time against the Aggies, including back-to-back 3-point losses these last 2 seasons. So, Spencer, will Texas A&M stay perfect in the series, or will Ole Miss stay perfect on the year?
Well, Adam, if they do, they've got to get superior quarterback play from Kenny Hill. That's the key there. I mean, teams have kind of broken the code, BJ, in the last couple of weeks against them. Arkansas kind of softened them up, and then Mississippi State followed up. But if you look at the success over the last couple of games, this is a downward trend. The numbers are comparable to Johnny Manziel through the first 6, okay? So you look at them and you say, well, that's pretty impressive. But those 5 turnovers, BJ, have come in the last 3 games. So teams have kind of not necessarily cracked the code, but now Kevin has got to respond from his schemes to trying to change up some of his tips and his reads so that he can kind of adjust to the adjustments.
Yeah, he's taking on a defense in Ole Miss that leads the conference in interceptions.
That's right.
But it's been about the offense. Last week we sat here and we talked about Ole Miss taking on Big Bad Alabama, and the key for them winning was Bo Wallace showing up and having a dynamite game. He did exactly that. Now, you look at his completion percentage a week ago, it was less than 60%, but he had the 3 touchdowns, 2 big ones late in the fourth quarter. This young man got it done with a clean game, no interceptions on his scorecard. And he's got some excellent receivers to go to as well. Big bodies, 6'1", 6'2", 6'3". They're all averaging about 14.5 yards per reception. So they've got the firepower, as does A&M, to hang with A&M. And they might go into this game saying, hey, we're better than Texas A&M. We knocked off the number 1 team in the nation in Alabama, and we're going to come in here and we're going to knock you off in what's going to be an electric atmosphere. I think A&M gets them, though.
Well, let's not forget the defense. Dave Womack, the defensive coordinator for Ole Miss, has done a fantastic job. Opponents have made 64 trips, all right, on possessions, only 3 touchdowns produced.
Yeah, only 2 red zone trips by Alabama
who's winning?
last week.
A&M.
Oh.
All right, A&M. There you go. We'll be with you Saturday afternoons throughout the season right here on College Football Today.
Scary.
All right, Leroy, got to ask you because, you know, I love putting you on the spot.
Yep.
Who wins this?
Ole Miss. I trust Ole Miss's defense more than I trust Texas A&M's offense. And I think anytime you can stop a strength of another team, it makes your weakness look a little bit better. So if Ole Miss can compete defensively with Texas A&M's offense, it gives Bo Wallace a little rest. It relaxes him, and he can go out and play maybe the type of game he played the week previous.
All right, now looking at some other games, Florida State defeats Syracuse 38-20. That's fine, but it's not exactly the beatdown that some people expected. Do they still deserve to be number one in your mind?
Until they lose, we'll find out more about them next week.
We will. TCU at Baylor. TCU leads 31-27. What are your thoughts on that game?
Well, it's a shootout, and I didn't think, I mean, everybody looked at TCU like, hey, they were, this defensive unit that was going to be able to slow Baylor down. But so far, it's been a high-scoring game.
Oregon is beating UCLA 35-10. Now, we saw those losses last week and talked about Oregon maybe having sort of an uphill battle to get back into the good graces and prove themselves. Are they doing that?
No, I mean, Oregon, everybody knows they're hurt. They're banged up on the front line. They don't look as good or as productive as they've been in the past offensively. But when you look at UCLA, well, what has happened to UCLA? I mean, they were supposed to be contenders in the Pac-12, and now they're struggling to win games.
Yeah, not looking so good for them, at least not right now. Michigan State 38-17 at Purdue. What do you see there other than a very big lead?
I have one spot available if Ohio State runs the table or Michigan State wins out. One of those two teams will be in the Final Four.
Your very favorite team, Notre Dame, is leading North Carolina 35-26.
I have questions about their defense. I mean, what are they going to do next week when facing Jameis Winston and those athletic offensive weapons? They're going to win. They should win. But North Carolina hasn't been very good, and they're scoring a ton of points or have scored a ton of points on Notre Dame.
So what does Notre Dame need to do going into that big game next week, like you mentioned?
Could just be one of those weeks where, they just didn't have it or they took North Carolina lightly. I think they understand what the task at hand is next week. They'll be ready.
All right. Hopefully they'll listen to Coach Horde. It's coming. I know it's coming. One day. You say no, but it's coming. All right, everybody. That'll do for us. Remember to keep it here on CBSSports.com for the best college football coverage. I'm Aaron Sharoni with Leroy Hort. Enjoy the rest of the games.